But we can't shy away from this reality, that terror networks in some places are operating with near impunity and imminent danger in others, and a potential threat everywhere. And a few of these networks, such as Daesh and Boko Haram, are attempting to govern land. That's a first-time event in this transition to these terror groups. And they're looking to expand.
Yes, they are. Welcome to Gimme 5, ladies and gentlemen. John Kerry in Davos, Switzerland last week. And you know where he's heading with this speech, do you not? You know where he's heading, defending Islam, defending Muslims, and saying this really isn't terror, it's really a criminalized situation. Here we go.
And today we are witnessing nothing more than a form of criminal anarchy, a nihilism which illegitimately claims an ideological and religious foundation. Against this enemy, we are increasingly organizing and fighting back. But in doing so, we have to also keep our heads. Obviously, the biggest error that we could make would be to blame Muslims collectively for crimes not committed by Muslims alone. Crimes that the overwhelming majority of Muslims oppose. Crimes that their faith utterly rejects. And that Muslim leaders themselves have the greatest ability to address.
All right, I don't know where to start with that cockamamie statement. First of all, nobody's blaming Muslims collectively, and we must not blame them for attacks that Muslims alone are not committing. In other words, who else but Muslims are committing Islamic Muslim terrorism? Are there Jews involved? Are there Christians involved? Are there Buddhists involved? I have no idea what John Kerry's talking about there. And he's speaking English, not even French. And I still don't know what he's talking about there. You know, it's just same old, same old. An administration who refuses to recognize the threat, refuses to admit what it is and identify the enemy, and that's why we won't be able to beat it with this administration in power. Here's more.
Religions don't require adherents to raise villages and blow up people. It's individuals with a distorted and an even ignorant interpretation of religion who do that.
If they claim that they are Muslim, and they claim they're doing this based on how they interpret the Quran, who is John Kerry to say it's distorted? Is he a Muslim scholar? Is he an imam? You know, the Jewish religion, there's Orthodox, conservative, Reformed, and everything in between. Everybody interprets that religion differently. Who's right, who's wrong? Does John Kerry know who's right and who's wrong there too? Give me a break. What about all the different forms of Christianity? Does John Kerry know which one's right and which one's wrong? Now, he said raised villages. Immediately, what came to mind was what this man did. After the war, after he came back from Vietnam, he went before the United States Senate, and he accused his comrades who were in Vietnam of horrific acts, all lies. Watch.
They had personally raped, cut off ears, cut off heads.
The accusations that John Kerry made against the veterans who served in Vietnam was just devastating.
Randomly shot at civilians.
And it hurt me more than any physical wounds I had.
Cut off limbs, blown up bodies.
That was part of the torture, was to sign a statement that you had committed war crimes.
Razed villages in fashion reminiscent of Genghis Khan.
Genghis Khan. I mean, please, maybe that's the French way of saying it. But when he said raised villages in the speech in Davos, it immediately, the light went off in my head that he said raised villages in his testimony before the Senate. Don't forget who this man is. This man falsely accused his troops, his people, his comrades, still in Vietnam, of horrific acts that you just heard, which were untrue. This man threw his medals, which he gave himself, by the way, threw his medals over the fence at the White House. This man, as a senator, criticized the troops in Iraq, said to high school students, if you study hard, you'll be successful. If you don't, you'll wind up in Iraq. And he accused our troops of terrorizing women and children in Iraq by bashing in their doors and invading their homes in the middle of the night. That's who this man is. And it speaks volumes that he's Secretary of State. So take it for what it's worth. Your Newsmax Now update is next.